Imagine being the secret weapon behind hits for legends like Beyoncé, 50 Cent, and Dr. Dre. That was Scott Storch, a musical genius who built a $100 million empire, only to lose it all in spectacular fashion. Here are the 10 craziest ways Scott Storch lost it all. Edited scene 3 lines. Number 10. Scott Storch spent a jaw-dropping $30 million on cars. That's not a typo, $30 million, all poured into a fleet of the world's most coveted vehicles. He bought everything from Ferraris to Bentleys, filling his garages with automotive masterpieces. But here's the wild part. Most of these cars barely even had a few hundred miles on the odometer. They just sat there, collecting dust, rarely driven. For Scott, these weren't investments or even practical purchases. They were trophies, symbols of his success and wealth, meant to impress friends, celebrities, and anyone who visited. He loved showing them off, giving tours of his garage like it was a museum of automotive excess. Number 9. Scott Storch spent an unbelievable $6 million on private jets, treating the skies like his own personal highway. He used these jets like they were personal Ubers, hopping from Miami to LA, New York, or Vegas whenever the mood struck him, no matter the hour. There were no budgets, no schedules, just pure, unfiltered impulse and the thrill of instant luxury. He'd bring his entire entourage along for the ride, transforming every flight into a high-flying party above the clouds. Champagne flowed, gourmet food was served, and nobody ever worried about the price tag or the bill at the end. Sometimes he'd charter a jet for a 1-hour flight, a trip that would have cost just a few $100s on a commercial airline, but he wanted exclusivity. For Scott, it was all about the image, the convenience, and the feeling of living above the ordinary. This wasn't an investment, just millions gone forever, evaporating into thin air like jet fuel with every extravagant trip. But for Scott Storch, the sky was never the limit. His spending soared even higher. Number 8. Scott Storch blew an astonishing $17 million on lavish mansions, most of which he barely set foot in. These weren't just ordinary homes. We're talking about sprawling estates in some of the most exclusive neighborhoods with private docks, infinity pools, and breathtaking views of the Miami skyline. Sometimes he bought a mansion just because he liked the way it looked from the street, not because he planned to live there. Many of these homes sat empty, never even furnished or decorated. Some were so neglected that Scott never even visited them after signing the papers. They became ghost mansions, silent, echoing reminders of his impulsive spending spree. Number 7. Scott spent $10 million on parties and clubbing. He turned nightlife into a full-time job, rolling into clubs with massive entourages and ordering endless bottles of champagne. Sometimes he'd rent out entire VIP sections or throw mansion parties with celebrity guests and open bars. Nights out could cost hundreds of thousands, just for the flex. He was addicted to being the center of attention, burning through cash for ego and status. The parties were legendary, but the money was incinerated. No return, just hangovers, and a shrinking bank account. But the real cost came from something even darker. Number 6. Scott's cocaine addiction quickly became the most destructive force in his life. What started as a way to cope with stress soon took over, isolating him from friends, family, and his career. He missed crucial studio sessions, became unreliable, and his reputation collapsed. Opportunities vanished, and the doors that were once open to him closed, leaving him feeling hopeless. It was a vicious cycle. Stress led to more drugs, fueling financial disaster and emotional turmoil, trapping him in a downward spiral. Number 5. Scott gave away millions in gifts. Rolexes, designer bags, cars. He handed them out to friends, girlfriends, even strangers. He'd buy luxury items for his entire entourage just to flex his wealth. This generosity attracted opportunists, not real friends. The cost of buying loyalty was massive, and when the money ran out, so did the people. But he didn't just give gifts. He paid for an entire army of yes-men. Number 4. Scott spent millions on a huge entourage of bodyguards, assistants, and hangers-on. He paid people to hype him up and agree with every decision, no matter how reckless. This echo chamber insulated him from reality. No one challenged his spending or drug use. Maintaining this crew was like running a small company, but the only product was Scott's ego. When the money dried up, the entourage vanished, leaving him alone to face the consequences. But ignoring his real responsibilities was even more costly. Number 3. Scott ignored his taxes and legal obligations. He spent every dollar as if it was his to keep, never setting aside money for the IRS. Tax debt piled up into the millions with interest and penalties. He also fell behind on child support, leading to legal trouble and public embarrassment. The IRS seized his assets, mansions, cars, bank accounts, piece by piece. His empire was dismantled not by rivals, but by the government. But the biggest mistake was never having a plan for the future. Number 2. Scott had no business plan. He made millions but never built a sustainable structure or invested for the future. No savings, no investments, no passive income, just spending as fast as he earned. When the music stopped, so did his income. He had nothing to fall back on except depreciating luxury toys. It was a house of cards built on the belief that the party would never end, and that belief was his ultimate downfall. Number 1. Scott truly believed the money would never run out. He was living in a world where every day felt like a celebration, and the idea of limits seemed almost laughable to him. At his peak, he felt invincible, convinced the hits and checks would keep coming forever. Surrounded by flashing lights and endless applause, he thought the good times would never fade. This arrogance fueled every reckless decision: cars, houses, parties, jets. He spent without a second thought, chasing thrills and status symbols at every turn. He never budgeted or saved, thinking there'd always be another million-dollar payday. Financial planning seemed unnecessary when money flowed like water. Surrounded by yes-men, he ignored the reality that all careers have ups and downs. No one dared to warn him, and he brushed off any doubts. When his addiction caught up with him, the industry moved on, and the money stopped. The world he built began to crumble, leaving him isolated and lost. Suddenly the fortune was gone and so were the friends. The silence was deafening and the emptiness impossible to ignore. The lesson: overconfidence and denial can destroy even the most talented. No amount of fame or fortune can protect you from reality. But Scott's story isn't just about loss, it's about learning. In the end, he found wisdom in his mistakes and a chance to rebuild. Scott Storch's rise and fall is a cautionary tale. Talent made him rich, but bad choices made him broke. Lavish spending, ignoring responsibilities, and surrounding himself with the wrong people led to his collapse. No matter how much you earn, poor judgment will leave you with nothing. The good news? Scott's working on a comeback, rebuilding his life with hard-earned wisdom. He'll never forget how fast $100 million can disappear.